Good, good morning, everyone. This is Sunday, April 11th, 2021, and I am Erica Swenson Elliott, and it's great to be with you today. I'm starting as normal, doing a whole bunch of different little topics and trying to keep it interesting and diverse in content. So I'm going to start on the blog page. So for those of you that have a Wix website that you're managing yourself, I recently added a blog, which you can do at a minimum level for free. It's not a chargeable app at least the starter level. And today I'm wearing my tax tattoo shirt. You can see here featured in the middle. That's all the little tax code on there. I'm pretty tall, I'm 5'11", so this is a size large women. It's a UPF 38 to 40 for sun for you with the fair skin out there. Once I got the blog in, I then used my blog to send out on some of the various platforms we talked about in the past. And people can obviously also sign up to get the blog post. I think it only comes in email right now. So I like using it for one I end up using a lot and sending out kind of as almost like a business card is this Mudras one. So I send this in text messages from my phone if I'm talking to someone about Mudras, and then they can start looking at the Endeavor University platform with the Mudra courses on there, and there's a link in there. So I use that blog as just like focused on that one specific thing I'm trying to connect with somebody. So I just did my first GIF. So that was kind of accidental, but now I know how to do it somewhere. And that's that little blinking thing there. It's like a little 6-second, I think is the maximum amount of time. So you can end up dressing things up. I started the blog probably back in October. Yeah, October 27th. And I think the thing I like about the blog feature is like I use it as a reference point now to go back, and then I can embed it into other documents as well. So you can create like these layers of what you're involved in. So I would encourage you to play with that if you haven't already. So now, if you are going to be on the website, you click on shop, and I don't use the Wix shop, I use Shopify. So I somehow figured out with the help of my friends and team how to hook up the Shopify as my store, because there's more features that plug into the back of that. And I'm sure Wix is good too for those of you who are already using a Wix store. But from talking with Navarro at Max Lab Solutions, my marketing techno genius, he sees Shopify as the most robust. He can end up using that with the like Facebook ads and other social media ads coming back to Shopify. I think it works better from his dashboard on the back end if you're working with someone like that, or you yourself or someone like that. So this is I feel like Mr. Rogers, for those of you old enough, where I remember watching, he was on Channel 12 PBS, back in the day when there was only 5 channels on TV, and PBS was one of the 5. So it'd be Sesame Street, and then I think Mr. Rogers came next, or maybe he was first, and Sesame Street, and then Zoom. I remember having Zoom, which is weird because here we are on Zoom, right? Today, but Mr. Rogers would always come in and he would have a sweater, and he would pick out a sweater and pick out a pair of shoes. And sometimes there were ones he tied with little bows, or there were slip-ons, or there'd be a button-up or a zipper or blue or yellow. So my mom would be cooking in the kitchen, and I would be watching Mr. Rogers, and then I would wait until I saw what he was actually wearing, and then I would go like report to my mom which sweater Mr. Rogers had picked out that day. So that's kind of how I think I'm like wearing, like ordering different products. I'm trying to test them from the design and make sure that the quality is good, and I'm building up a pretty robust website, wardrobe of t-shirts and yoga clothes, can see like this one has like all the little tax words in there. So that's part of my tax series. So I'm wearing my tax tattoo art today. To a little shout out to Mr. Rogers. Okay, so I'm going to do a little tech talk segment here. And I want to show you, for those of you interested, and I know there's a lot of you out there with a lot of digital capabilities and a lot of expertise that you could share with the rest of the world. So no more hiding, like come out and play with the rest of us and show us what you got, because when we all share our knowledge and work with each other and speak up with our voice in multiple ways, we're making the world a better place, and we're in service to humanity and service to others. And it's always that balance, right? You have to take care of yourself in order to help be in service to others. So, right? So it's definitely a double-edged sword. So if you're inside of Thinkific and you were using that, and my digital content platform is Endeavor University, is the brand that I came up with because I have a very entrepreneurial kind of bent, and therefore Endeavor to me seemed authentic to me. So that's the thing you're trying to do, is it takes time to find out what feels authentic to you and what works for you as a digital warrior. So I'm taking these daily videos that we're making together and I'm putting them into this course that I'm building out. So right now, as I'm building it, if someone, and it's published, and I'm using I think a very cool kind of way to make it less stressful. And I learned this from Michael Jacobs' Unleashing Intuition platform that he's worked on for years, is as he adds more content, then his bundle and his overall subscription price goes up with the amount of content. So right now this course has all the videos in there, and I'm building in PDFs and support documents and links to all of the things that I'm referencing, as well as further support videos. So that way it's giving you an organized platform and then a way to take what you need, what's applicable and authentic to you, and apply to your life and your digital warrior platform. Because not everything that I do is going to be applicable to you, but at least you can learn from my time invested and experiences and mistakes and successes. So I think what I'm going to do next, because like many of you, we know we're quantum, deep, complex humans. We're all individually amazing. So there's layers and layers. So the journey is going inward. And when we journey inward, that's when we're affecting the universe around us. We know this from philosophy classes, learning, but it's like, how do you do that, right? How do you affect the journey? So therefore, we're very interdimensional spiritual beings. So we're doing all this 3D stuff here in the physical. We can be analytical like in tax world, and that's all true, but that's only one layer. So there's a spiritual, deeper layer. And as time is going by, those of us that are awake to that and accept that and aren't questioning or skeptical about that spirituality, we're just finding each other. So the Optimized Tribe is one of those places that we've talked about in almost every one of my videos, where you can connect with other people that are already thinking and accepting that. They're not skeptical anymore. They're way beyond that. They're accepting that spiritual, interdimensional service to humanity mindset. So one of the niches, however you want to pronounce it, that I want to include in one of the courses here that I'm going to start building out, is people have been telling me their back from the dead stories my entire life. I have I don't know why, I'm sure it's in my stars somehow and it's embedded, but especially random strangers running like on the train. Yesterday I was getting my shoulder worked on by a massage therapist they're very spiritual, deep people often. She's the latest person that's told me her back from the dead stories. So I'm going to start at least putting them all out there into one course, because I think it's important for people to know they're not alone, and something's unusual has happened to them while they're sleeping and they come back from the dead in some shape or form. To hear other people's stories and how many there are is pretty intense. So I'm going to start, and it helps to verify for those of you that are still coming to grasp with the fact that this is not just a 3D world. I think that would be a really good course for you to go through, and at least you're open to it, you can hear it and kind of verify where you are. So some people have actually volunteered to be interviewed for that series. So it'll be my own storytelling from people that have told me things 25 years ago. And I'm going to start with my own, and then also my husband's. He had a bypass surgery electively for his heart a number of years ago. And I was in his hospital room, and he was hooked up to all the machines. It was like 24, 36 hours out from the surgery. This will be the first one on this Back from the Dead course. And he flatlined. The machine went, Wimbledon was on. It was 2008. It was when that amazing year where Federer was playing Nadal, and it was like the match of the century, and it just went on for like a day and a half, and it was like 5 sets. It was the first time Nadal ever broke Federer at Wimbledon, his first win at Wimbledon. So it was in those lead ups, and it was like a Saturday night, and some of them were just watching that tennis go back and forth. So he flatlined. I'm literally jumping out of the hospital bed that I was sitting on next to him to get to him to start this, until the nurses got there. And by the time I was halfway across the floor to his bed, the nurses had already turned the corner, and they had like all the equipment, like whatever, the IVs or machines, that the paddle thing to bring him back. And that fast, Keith was back. He was already back in his body, and he was like, "What?" He looked at all. He's like, "What? I'm fine. Nothing's wrong." And then they were like, crazy and doing all the, tests to make sure he really actually was fine. And he had gone into like an atrial arrhythmia. So it's like the top half of his heart had, from all the stress of, having bypass surgery and 85 people's hands in your chest and bringing them back, taking all the blood out and putting it back in, and all the insane stuff that happens during a heart bypass surgery. So it was basically, going into shock. The heart is an electromagnetic field. There's all little electrical circuits through there. So he, that top half of his heart was like beating like 200 beats a minute. And the bottom ventricle part was doing the regular, 60 to 70 beats a minute. So it was like a computer going out of whack, right? So he was going to have a medical procedure done afterwards. But that was the moment he died. There was some electrical thing that happened, something mysterious. And we didn't know he had actually died until a couple of weeks later. He confessed to me what happened. And he thought he was gone for a long time. So he felt himself snap, like literally snap out of his body. And his consciousness was up on the ceiling somewhere, looking down on himself, me, and the nurses. And at the time, he's like, there was so much going on. He's like, there was so much information coming in. So it was like, and because he was on a lot of medication and drugs and out of the surgery, I don't think he can now recall everything that was like downloaded into him, but he thought he was gone for like a half hour. So it was like time was not the same. And when he was back within 5 seconds, it was like, this can't be real, like what just happened? So it took a while to like reconcile that, because he's a numbers guy, right? Like he he's the CEO businessman, like this can't, very, very skeptical about those kind of things. So for him, it was a faith builder thing that yes, I experienced the other side. I know there is this other side. I don't know what it is, but I'm consciously aware, like of what, of what happened to me. So those are the kind of stories that people have told me over and over again. And probably one of the reasons is being in a minister's household. There's obviously funerals, death and destruction things going on all the time. So one of the things I'm going to try to do this. So I'm going to transition into our story time, and I kind of did a little mini story here already, but I'm going to now attempt to play a video I recorded earlier today, because I'm going to try to use this one as a standalone in the Thinkific story classes, so I can end up doing a more pointed. I'm not that good at video editing yet, so I have to help myself. So I'll use this one as a separate standalone, but let's see if I can get this one to play. This is about what we're talking about finding ourselves. I'm going to read to you from Love in Texas, Book 1, A True Story, written by moi. I'm going to read chapter Hauntingly Familiar on page 15. Facts matter, so use your own judgment. It was a weird feeling to be so at home with a stranger I had never met before. It's like twins. At least in this lifetime. Reminiscent of old homies, everything was, quote, hauntingly familiar, to quote Stevie Nicks. Suddenly I heard the voice over the phone. This retired chairman and CEO of a publicly traded multinational corporation. His tough but fair reputation had far preceded him in our existing phone relationship. Partners in my huge accounting firm warned me how formidable he could be. This was coming from men pretty intimidating themselves. One even said that I'd better be on my guard because they had never been spoken to, quote, in that way before. But let me go back and begin before I met the voice that fateful night. There was already many little signs beforehand that intrigued me about him. Over my career, there were a number of clients who referenced the same man, R. Keith Elliott. Each registered a level of awestruck wonder over Keith's rainmaking capabilities and how he made stuff happen. Over the years of our phone relationship, I would wonder about the actual man behind the voice, because I wanted to reconcile his conflicting perceptions for myself. This was back when the internet was beginning and you couldn't Google someone's name and get images from the last 5 years of their life. People remained a voice over the phone quite often or forever. But this was not going to be one of those times. So that first fateful night, when we sat catty-corner for dinner, unbeknownst to ourselves, we began the fascinating puzzle of the most complex and rewarding relationship of our lives. For me, I was captured by Keith's stories of life, business, global travel. They weren't just random stories of fluff. They were parabolic. I think that's how you pronounce it, like a parable, in an Aesop's fables kind of way. They had meaning, purpose, and his principles were so timelessly on point in various life applications. When I was still a child, but already an obsessive observer of people, one of my first determinative rules of social engagement was that two adults' versions of an interaction never matched. Sometimes I could barely even recognize the facts. I knew the grown-ups were not lying to me. They both emphatically believed their version of the events was the only truth. And that is how I forged one of my first principles about people. Perception shapes reality. In today's world of 2019, just not readiness, this is quite commonly understood. But back in my 1970s childhood, not so much. In these pages, you will read my observational memoir, which is based on how my brain has chosen to forge my own perception of reality. Other participants in my story may not agree with the events I lay out here, but that is the beauty of a memoir. They don't have to. They can go write their own book, because this story is my own. Perception shapes reality. And that's the end of the chapter All right, that makes me laugh listening to myself. Let me see if I can turn this one off without. No, that wasn't the right way. Let me come back. I think I turned off the wrong one. Okay, here we are. I don't know if you could see it, but we'll find out after this recording is over. So, because I shared this screen here with Thinkific. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is more about this is about the technology talk points. So I'm using Vimeo as my main platform to distribute out to other channels. So I'm recording on Zoom, I'm keeping them on my computer. I'm using that principle we talked about, DRI, decentralize, replicate, and independence, because too many people have directly live streamed onto YouTube, and now YouTube controls that proprietary video, and then they can delete it. So I think I have an example here. Here's some of the playlists I kind of tracked. You can see all these deleted videos. So of other people's content, they're gone. So if they didn't make copies of them or record them, and then maybe you can parallel live stream onto YouTube, but a lot of people don't. Now they're very kind of turned off to that because of what happened. There's like a lack of trust. So, and unfortunately, I know at least one short movie that's been deleted or shut down on the Vimeo as well. So you can't start it there. So I am making my copies on my cloud-based server, DigitalOcean, and as I get better at that, then I'm probably gonna. It's not a very good streaming platform, is my understanding from there. So you can store it there, and then send it out to the different platforms like Vimeo. And then Vimeo, you can click a few buttons, and then you can actually send it from there to directly to LinkedIn, directly to YouTube, directly to, I don't use Twitter, but you could, do it there. So I think some of the other ones like Gab and Mastodon Online, and then YouTube and BitChute. I don't know if Vimeo gives you that direct access. You can send it to LinkedIn. You can actually send it to Shopify, but it has to be 6 seconds. So there's a lot. It's a nice distribution system to use. But it's not all encompassing. So the next thing I want to talk about, and this is about all of us working together. So as you're building your own platform, you can do. We talked about budget savvy travelers yesterday, and I met them through the Gab community, but they have a really great summary about how you can work with people like them, a professional travel group. So they're basically getting paid because they have such a large following. So they're curating their advertisers, based on their interest. And one of the tools that they introduced me to through their website is this Deal Spotter, which some of you might already be familiar with. And their tagline here is the LinkedIn of influencer marketing. So so I'm thinking about my shop, right? So I can hire and pay budget savvy travelers to promote and give them, I can write my own copy, or they can help me write my own copy with their team. And my Travel the World collection of shirts and accessories and bags kind of is like a really nice, that's authentic, right? It goes with what they're doing. So that might be a nice fit for my product line and for them as well. Then I could also work directly with Deal Spotter here, right? I can end up I can create a discount code over on Shopify. I can create a discount code for my books as well it's not through Amazon itself, but there's a back end, that tool that my publisher uses, that I can create a discount code that I think is actually through Barnes and Noble's like back room. Um, and then plug into here, right? So this is a great platform that's new to me, but that makes sense and matches up to my store. So you're connecting into a community that's doing, if you could, because you could sit there yourself and send out your ads through Facebook, but that's fair as a person like you and me that are developing a line or a line of services, a line of products, a line of digital content. You could be paying Facebook ads just to kind of send it to your friends, right? So it's not until you get to the professional level of tools that are being used by social media companies, you're not necessarily getting a lot of bang for your buck or getting to a wider, newer audience without working with tools like this. So I think that's enough for today. I think we did a lot of good things. It is, I'm going to send a reminder out there, tax extension, tax filing deadline day of April 15th has been moved for 2020 tax returns to May 17th, 2021, for those of you still working. And guess what? If you don't have a tax liability and you have a refund, there is no penalty for individuals that file late. So I still have people that haven't filed coming to me and I need help because I never got to file my 2019 return. They're missing out on some of those refund checks because they don't have a good return in. They're kind of falling through the cracks. So get it. You can still file old returns. You can get refunds for past returns as well. I think there's like, you can only go back 2 years now. They keep changing that. So you can use never too late to begin again. So that includes tax world. That's it for today. And I'm going to do one little mudra. We've done this one before. This one is your voice, your thyroid. So your right hand facing out, left hand in front. This is stronger voice. Do a deep breath. The first time I did this one, I can literally feel electrical currents going back and forth between my hands and my throat. So that's activating the throat chakra. It's rebalancing yourself, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to rebalance ourselves so we can take care of ourselves, so we can be in service to humanity and those around us. One big deep inhale in. Exhale through your nose out. Namaste. Talk to you soon.